What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're returning, if you are new, I hope you like what you see and consider doing all the cool stuff, liking, sharing, subscribing. And enough of that, let's get into this thing. So today we are going to be going over Magwells, specifically flared Magwells that you can add on to your firearms. So I get a lot of questions a lot of times. They see me running a flared Magwell on a handgun or on a rifle, and I get people ask me actually quite frequently, does that really help? So I've been kind of wanting to do this video for a while. I've been kind of putting it off because I've got a bunch of different guns out. So I've brought out a bunch of different stuff. We're going to try stuff with and without, and we're going to do a bunch of 1R1s and stuff like that and put it on a timer and see if it does actually help. And if you're a little bit new to guns, I'm going to try and break down what this is, what it does, the flared Magwell. So as you can see, that opening where the mag goes, this is basically like a little funnel that you can put on to your Magwell, whether it be on a pistol grip of a handgun or the Magwell of an AR-15, AK, whatever. And it makes it to where you can be off a little bit on your reload, and it will still help funnel that magazine in there and make you a lot more consistent on your reloads. So some of you guys might be thinking, I don't really care about my reload speed. That's fair. I mean, if you're just kind of casually at the range, that's fine. But if you do consider using handguns or rifles in self-defense situations and such, and you need to reload, there's going to be a lot of stress. I mean, you get similar stuff like that whenever you're in competition. Your blood's really flowing, your adrenaline's kind of through the roof, and you can kind of, it's a lot easier to miss and mess that up. And in a self-defense situation, your life is on the line. So I kind of like, as you guys have seen, I like using Magwells. Not only does a Magwell increase your speed, it increases your consistency, and if your consistency goes up, you can kind of push that limit a little bit further and make yourself faster and still more consistent. Before we go any further, I feel like I should mention, if you guys enjoy lip pillows like I do, head over to Zemo, use code BOLTS, and you'll get 20% off your order. All right, so just so it's a little bit easier, first thing we're gonna start with is that same 17C slide that you saw. This is the original Gen 3 Glock frame, so we have absolutely no flared Magwell on that thing. We're gonna be relatively close. I'm not really going for rounds on target. I'm just going to see how quickly I can get the gun back up and going. All right, I am going to be drawing from this old Safari Land holster that you guys have probably seen on a previous video, and I'm going to be running from a battle belt, so I don't have my competition set up. So anyway, let's get the timer turned on, see how we do. Failed to lock the slide back. 5.35, so not very good with failing to lock that slide back. Let's try it again. A lot better, but failed to get the mag out. That Gen 3 mag release is kind of hard to hit. All right, let's get one more. .381. So I would say our average is probably around 4 seconds on the classic Glock Gen 3. All right, now we've got the famous / infamous Glock Gen 6. So you guys, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that the factory flared Magwell on these, same as the Gen 5. So it is a lot more open than the classic Gen 3 and even the 4. So got it gassed up. Let's see how we do. Way better. 2.80. Let's go for another one. Exactly the same, 2.80. One more. Kind of messed that one up, but we still got a 2.79. All right, last and certainly not least, one of the handguns you saw earlier. This is my same 17C factory slide on my OZ9 full-size frame. Now this OZ9, it is a Glock clone, it is modular, but the main thing I like about it is a lot more straight grip angle, akin to like 1911s, Smith & Wessons, stuff like that. And I just absolutely love these things. I will probably eventually do a dedicated video to this gun, but for now, we're just gonna do the same thing that we did with the others. So I will point out that I am using Safariland duty holster, just like we were on the other two. So no advantages to the OZ9. .60. Let's get another one. .27. All right, let's get one more. Ah. 2.34. So I think it's safe to say there, flared magwells definitely help on handguns. You saw a huge jump or a decrease in time going from the classic Gen 3 with no magwell to the Gen 6 that has a little bit, and then going to the OZ9. I think a little bit of what helped me go so fast with this thing is I do use this thing, or at least this frame, for USPSA, so I have a lot of dry fire time and live fire time with this versus the other two guns. This magwell happens to be like their duty magwell, so it's not the really big one. I like that because I do appendix carry this pistol every day pretty much. So again, this thing, I just really get along with it. So naturally, I'm gonna do really well with it. All right, moving on to rifles. We got the old KR9 out here. So I will point out, this thing does have the thumb mag release from Dissident Arms, and that's gonna make things a little bit faster, but I do have a magwell that I can slap on this thing really quick after we're done doing these. All right, I actually have not practiced with this thumb release all that much, so it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of times I can get with this thing. So, my timer is not picking up the time from this thing being shot suppressed. That round out, and I'm gonna take the suppressor off so that my timer is actually gonna pick these up. I wasn't really expecting that, so we've got bare muzzle, but I mean, we're not going for necessarily recoil control or anything. We're just trying to get a good reload. So let's try this again. All right, so that was a 3.61, a couple more in. .332, so a little bit better. All right, let's get one more. I don't know what happened there, but we had a couple, like a double fire there, but we still in a 3.40, so average was a little bit over 3 seconds. All right, so now we have got a magwell on there. That is from Hammy 3D Prints. This thing just slides right on. About 25 boners, so really affordable. Nothing really, you don't have to modify the gun or anything like that at all. It just goes straight on there. So now that we got that on there, let's see how well we do. .306, so shaved probably half a second off. Let's try it again. Even with messing that one up, 303. Let's get one more. And 343. So I figured out what's going on. I do have an FRT in this thing usually, and I just took that out real quick to film this, and my trigger and hammer pin are trying to walk out, so that's what's going on. So continuing the trend, KR9 saw about half a second less on the reloads, even with some of them being messed up by me. That's not quite as much as we saw on the handgun, but let's keep going to some other rifle platforms. All right, so this is where I think it's gonna get a little bit more controversial. So we're moving into rock and lock. We've got one of my Saigas here, and you'll see in a minute why I did this, because I do not have a 5.56 AK that doesn't have a Magwell on it. My 545s do not, and this one is going to be the closest to the 10,000 plus round arsenal that you guys know that does have a Magwell on it. So we've got, you know, a dot, a different stock, and large charging handle, all that stuff. So I'm trying to, again, as usual, try and keep this as apples to apples as I can. So we're going to fire a little bit of 545 for you guys again, get some times, then break out the 556 and see how it goes. Another reason why I did choose this gun is, in general, I do pretty good with this thing as far as consistent reload, so I want to give non-Magwell as much of a chance versus having a Magwell. That way you guys don't necessarily feel like you have to go buy one. So enough gabbing, we're loaded, let's go. So we've got a 351 still loaded. Let's get another one in. 312. One more. 340. So averaging, I would say, around 3.25 seconds. All right, back out here with the arsenal. As you guys can see, we do have Magwell in there. This is, a lot of people ask what kind this is. This is Solar Tactical MFer. I'm not exactly sure what that's supposed to stand for, but either way, it is polymer. I will note that these things are specifically for 7.62 size Magwells, and that does make a big difference. Also, I will say, if you have a thicker receiver like an RPK or a Zastava, these things are not made to work with that. So these things are relatively affordable and they're easy to put on. I will say they do tend to they can move around a little bit sometimes, but even if they slide back, you know, this is a Rock and Lock magazine, so it's going to push that thing back forward. It's not really a big deal. That said, I have had some people in my comments, as well as personally, I've had some guns that just do not like these things for whatever reason. The PSA GF3, which we're going to be bringing out soon, is one of them. I tried to put one of these on that gun, and it basically made it to where I couldn't put in most of my magazines. There was like a select few magazines that would actually work, so that was definitely a no-go, so it got moved to something else. All right, we're loaded. It's actually the first time I've shot this thing since I switched over to the Reardon flash hider, because I'm going to plan B on everything. So let's go. Oh, I missed. Still a 372, so not bad. All right, so I felt like my sling was in the way, so I'm gonna take that off. All right, let's get another one here real quick. 2.80, so definitely faster. So that one camera cut out, it was a 2.64. I'm gonna see if I can still get another one on camera, because last weekend it was maybe 50 degrees. Today it's gonna be like 90, and my camera does not like the heat. So let's see if we can get another one. 2.49. I would say that is the best one that we've had so far from Rock and Lock. So, but I want to see, it's actually one of the first malfunctions I've had in quite a while. So I'm going to actually cut the camera real quick. I'm going to angle it down because I'm going to have to mortar this. I have a stuck case and we are shooting steel case, which should be the natural food of an AK. So here we go. It's caught on the rim. I don't know if you guys can see that. It peeled off part of the rim. So I may need to put a new extractor spring, because I mean, this thing again is at 12,000 rounds and I have not had to maintenance any of that stuff yet. So this is a sign here that maybe it's time to do that. Film this little bit here in the barn again. We're back, it's only March and we're having to film stuff in the barn again. But just to keep my camera a little bit cooler, as you guys saw, yet again, definitive proof that the Magwell does definitely help. We shaved anywhere from almost half a second to 3/4 of a whole second off of the reload. And that may not sound like much, but whenever your average reload speed is around 3 seconds and you're shaving that much, you're talking about a 30 to 35% increase in speed. All right, we're moving on to another platform now. As you can see, AR-15. This is my Mark 18. So as you guys know, this is abs basic mil spec as far as the lower and everything goes as you can get. So absolutely nothing special, no aftermarket lower that has like a more flared Magwell. I mean, this thing is as bone stock as we can get it. So enough yapping, let's do some reload. So we just have the Yankee Hill Turbo T2 on here. Good suppressor, as you guys have seen in several of my videos. Granted, this is a 10.3 inch barrel, so hopefully my shot timer will actually pick this up, because I really don't want to try and run this thing with no suppressor because it is super loud. Here we go. Nope. Like, it didn't pick up not one round. This thing is still just running. So, I mean, these Yankee Hills are a little gassy, but let that be a testament. Like, this thing cannot pick up this thing off of a 10.3 inch. I'm gonna put my timer up on the camera, see if we can get a little bit closer to like the ejection port or something like that. Because again, I really don't want to run this thing unsuppressed. So let's see how we do. Still didn't pick up one single round. Like, this thing is still running. That's ridiculous. All right, again, still really don't want to shoot that thing unsuppressed, so I believe I have some PMC bronze, a couple boxes laying around in the house. I'm gonna go grab those, load it up into a mag, and see if it'll pick that up. All right, so even with PMC bronze, which I understand is still 223, it is definitely a hotter ammo than that steel case Wolf that we had, and we know the Wolf will not run in this gun. PMC bronze will without a can, but we're just gonna have to run it without a can because even with that, it's still not picking up anything on this timer. Let's see if we can get this to go. And 319. Let's get another one. 2.68. One more. 2.59. So it's pretty safe to say that we're around 250, 260 with the Mark 18 / AR-15. And I'm actually really surprised I'm doing that well because I have not been practicing reloads or anything with an AR at all in quite a while. So let's slap on the Magwell, see how we do. All right, yet another one from Hammy 3D Prints. He does have these made more specific to certain lowers, like you can buy them for an Aero M4E1, blah, 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 blah. So this, again, being the most basic, I just got a mil-spec one. Slides right on, no tools or anything. It stays put relatively well, and I have not practiced, again, any reloads at all, so I definitely haven't practiced at all with this thing on there. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this does. All right, so let's get us a reload in. .6, about the same. Get another one. Woo, 2.04. I was smoking fast. All right, let's try and get one more in. .12. All right, back in the barn because I'm getting a temperature warning on my camera yet again. But as we saw with the Hammy 3D Prints Magwell, again, 25 boners, if you guys are curious. Our reload speeds were averaging around 260, as in 2.60. Now we're down to pretty close to 2, maybe 210. So again, we're seeing about half a second increase. Again, I understand that does not sound like that much, but we're seeing about this time around 20% increase in speed. Again, I had not practiced AR reloads of any kind in a long time, as well as not with that Magwell. So I think the more I practice with that, I could get it down easily under 2 seconds if I really put my mind to it. All right, so now for 7.62 by 39, you guys recognize this rifle. It is the PSA, and I believe we're only gonna do 2. I don't have a whole lot of ammo, and we're gonna try and do a 1 reload 1. We might just do 1 each on each rifle of a dry rifle, and then try and reload, try and compare that if we can, because I think I've got 10 rounds and I need to train tomorrow and I need to save that ammo for that. So anyway, we're gonna get in some reloads and see how we do. All right, PSA, no Magwell. Here we go. All right, 3.41. Not bad. I think that was relatively on par with the 5.45. Let's get another one. All right, 3.36. So I would think it's safe to say that our average is about 3.35 to 3.4. And as I said, we're kind of limited on ammo just because I'm making myself not shoot everything that I've got. So we're gonna start, we are dry, and I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna be empty with the hammer down, and on the timer, I'll do a reload. .60. So let's go grab the other rifle, get some reloads in. All right, here we go. As you guys know, this is my iron sight, like heavy irons division rifle. This is my dad's old Wasser. And we've got the JMac Customs Magwell. This thing is designed to go with the MMS handguard, but I did a little customization up here, and this thing's been absolutely solid. So one thing I will note on JMac, as I mentioned before with the Solar Tactical MFer, they are only making those for 7.62 by 39 size Magwells. JMac is, to my knowledge, the only company on the market that makes a 5.45/5.56 Magwell size Magwell. So this one, obviously 7.62, but yeah, let's get some rounds in, see how it goes. All right, load it up. Here we go. .13, and that was even with me kind of fumbling to get the mag out of the mag pouch. So let's get another one. Woo! 2.68. That's fast. That is really fast. That's one of the better ones I've ever done on a 7.62. All right, one last reload. We're starting empty again. See, empty, hammer down. Here we go. 2.32. Man, that is fast. Back in the barn, I know. But anyway, so there we saw the PSA, I believe we were around 3.35, 3.40. Wasser, we are probably, I think my first one was a little over 3, my second one was like 2.60. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we're gonna average that out at around 2.80. I believe the dry rifle to one round reload on the PSA came out to about 260, 270. On the Wasser, it came out to about 230, 240. So on average, we're seeing anywhere from half to 3/4 of a second, all the way down to maybe 1/4 to half of a second. So still a very noticeable increase, and it's just still way more consistent. So I think that is pretty definitive proof across handguns, straight insert mags, rock and lock mags. Magwells most definitely make an improvement. That's where you're gonna have to be the judge if that's something that you think that you want. Obviously, Magwells are not free. They do cost something, some cost more than others. Say the Glock Gen 5 factory Magwell, flared Magwell that they released. I don't know if they fit the 6, I'm assuming that they will. I believe they're 25 ball hairs. So pretty cheap and affordable, as well as the Magwells that we tried from Hammy Prince. Those are also 25 ball hairs. So very affordable and very effective. I like to add those Hammy Prince Magwells are also extremely easy to install. On the other hand, the rock and lock rifles, those Magwells are traditionally quite a bit more expensive. I want to say the Solar Tactical MFer is up around 50 ball hairs, and the JMac is probably up around 100 ball hairs. So it's kind of the thing, I mean, you got to pay to play the game, basically. And I've had some people, especially on the rock and lock guns, say that you don't need them and it doesn't make any difference, but obviously I just showed that it most definitely does. With an AK, you have a flat surface, like you don't have a beveled surface or anything like you do with a Glock or say an AR, even that GI style lower that is beveled a little bit, so you can be off a little and it's still going to funnel the mag in, where the AK is very unforgiving. The trade-off to that being, as I talked about the Solar MFer, there's going to be some guns that it doesn't necessarily want to work with, where the JMac MMS I feel like is going to work with more guns, but unless you do some sort of customization like I did, you're going to probably have to have the MMS handguard in order to make that work. So wrapping it up, obviously, again, Magwells, definitely effective, definitely make an improvement. It's just going to have to be up to you whether you want to spend the money in order to get that. If you guys like the video, you know what to do. Consider liking, sharing, subscribing, all that cool BS. If you have any questions or whatever, comment sections down there, let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully we can do more stuff like this in the future. Hope to see you guys in the next one. And remember, it doesn't matter how fast you miss.